The film opens in Kibera wetland, Burundi, Central Africa. There we are introduced to a volunteer doctor named Caddy Andrews, who is working alongside several African soldiers as they excavate a mass grave along the riverbank. Based on her observations, Dr. Andrews concludes that all of the victims were killed in the same manner. Each was struck by large-caliber bullets. As the afternoon begins to fade, Dr. Andrews asks a corporal to help her dig what is believed to be a second mass grave. However, the moment Andrews pries into the soil, the ground suddenly begins to tremble. In a shocking turn of events, she is immediately attacked by a giant crocodile known as Gustave. The corporal and his troops attempt to shoot the beast, but their efforts prove futile. Andrews becomes Gustave's 300th victim, devoured mercilessly by the legendary predator. Meanwhile, in New York City, a seasoned reporter named Tim and his cameraman Steven find themselves facing serious trouble after accusing a senator of accepting bribes. The allegation backfires, putting their careers at risk. At the same time, Tim is summoned to his boss Roger's office. Feeling anxious, Tim assumes he is about to be reprimanded. However, upon entering the office, Roger does not bring up the story involving Senator Porter. Instead, he introduces Tim to a Viva Masters reporter who specializes in wildlife coverage. Tim is then shown a news report detailing the death of Dr. Andreas, who was killed by the massive crocodile known as Gustave. From that moment on, Roger assigns Tim to document the crocodile alongside Aviva. Not only that, Roger also wants Tim to capture footage of the legendary Gustave and insists that he work with a reptile expert named Matt Collins. Unsurprisingly, Tim strongly objects, arguing that the crocodile's territory is located in a region still plagued by civil war, making the mission extremely dangerous. Roger counters by assuring Tim that they will be protected by African military escorts, ensuring that the assignment proceeds safely. Faced with the promise of a substantial payment, along with the threat of losing his job, Tim ultimately agrees. Together with Stephen and Aviva, he departs for Africa.
Come on, join me next time on Bite Side.
Long story short, upon arriving at the African airport, they are greeted by a local man named Harry who guarantees their safety.
Follow me. You have rooms at the hotel.
The following day, the trio meets Matt Collins at the harbor. The plan is to travel to Burundi by boat, accompanied by 2 guards hired by Harry, as they prepare to begin their perilous journey. Once everything is prepared, the group sets off toward the region of Burundi. That night, as they navigate along the Nile River, they are suddenly ambushed by a group of rebels who open fire on them without mercy. Fortunately, the 2 hired mercenaries manage to overpower the attackers and drive them away. The following morning, in Soria village, Miduha, northern Burundi, we witness local villagers performing a ritual sacrifice, offering a dog to Gustave. They believe that by sacrificing the animal, Gustave will stop preying on humans. However, this belief is immediately shattered when Gustave proves otherwise. A young child, who is swimming in the river to retrieve a doll, is swallowed whole by the monstrous crocodile. Meanwhile, Tim, Matt, Aviva, and Stephen finally arrives in northern Burundi. Along the way, they stop to meet a hunter named Jacob, who is widely known as a longtime pursuer of Gustave. Jacob informs them that earlier that very morning, Gustave had claimed the life of a small child. He then urges Matt and the others to prepare all of their equipment, explaining that they will head to the village the next day.
Except those he means to kill first thing in the morning.
That night, Matt and Jacob speak privately. During their conversation, Matt warns Jacob not to kill Gustave. He explains that if they manage to capture the creature alive, they will receive an enormous cash reward from Roger. The following day, they depart for the northern Burundi village, transporting a massive cage designed to trap Gustave. Upon their arrival, they are warmly welcomed by the villagers, who place great hope in the team's mission. They believe that if Gustave can be captured, there will be no more loss of life. To date, 300 people have officially been recorded as victims, all devoured by Gustav. At that moment, Aviva notices a dog that has been prepared as a sacrificial offering by the villagers. Moved by compassion, she decides to take the dog with her. The next day, before the hunt for Gustav begins, Tim, Jacob, Aviva, and the rest of the team are brought to meet the village chief to participate in an opening ritual. During the ceremony, the chief experiences a vision, foreseeing that they will indeed find Gustav. However, he is uncertain whether everyone will survive the threat posed by the beast. Despite this ominous warning, the team remains undeterred. With the help of the villagers, including a young man named Jojo, they boldly haul the massive cage toward the riverbank. Along the way to Gustav's territory, they encounter a group of rebels led by a large, intimidating man. He is known by the nickname Little Gustav, a feared figure infamous for killing innocent villagers. Fortunately, the rebels choose not to attack and allow the team to continue their mission. Upon arriving at the site, they begin preparing all of the necessary equipment and bait, including goats, CCTV cameras, and other supporting gear. The villagers who help transport the cage are paid. However, Jojo chooses not to return home and instead decides to stay behind to assist Tim in capturing the giant crocodile.
Sorry you can't come to the good old US of A, but get there.
That night, as they monitor the bait through the CCTV feed, Aviva casually asks Jojo about his family. She immediately falls silent after hearing his answer. Jojo reveals that every member of his family has passed away. Not long after, the surveillance camera captures the image of two enormous glowing eyes. Realizing that the figure is Gustav, Matt, and Jacob, who are already standing by at the riverbank, prepare to fire a tracking dart. However, Gustav proves that he is far from a mindless beast. He refuses to take the baited goat and instead dives to the bottom of the river. Fortunately, before disappearing completely, Matt manages to shoot the tracking dart into Gustav's body. Afterward, the team retreats to their camp as a powerful storm is approaching. The following day, when they inspect the cage, they discover that the goat has vanished. Matt is convinced that the animal was not eaten by the crocodile, as there are no signs of blood around the area. Because Gustav has not yet been fully captured on camera, Stephen heads out to the grasslands to film various species of wildlife, including zebras and giraffes. While engrossed in his filming, Stephen hears the sound of vehicles coming to a halt. Observing from a distance, he realizes that it is a group of rebels capturing whatever their supposed offense may have been. The rebels brutally execute all three of them. Stephen remains frozen in place, silently recording the atrocity as it unfolds. After securing the footage, he shows the horrifying evidence to the rest of the team. Realizing that the situation has gone far beyond acceptable limits, Tim and Afifa plan to send the recording to the United Nations, hoping it will prompt the government to enforce a ceasefire and bring an end to the ongoing civil war. However, unbeknownst to them, one of the two soldiers overhears their conversation and reports it over the radio, informing others that the team has witnessed the murder of the village chief's family.
I'm not being cynical.
Meanwhile, without anyone noticing, Jojo deliberately climbs into the cage and begins shouting loudly to draw Gustav's attention. Seeing this, Tim, Stephen, and the others immediately rush toward the cage. Jojo continues to call out Gustav's name at the top of his lungs. Suddenly, a flock of birds startles Jojo, and at that very moment, Gustav emerges and launches an attack. The force of the assault causes the cage to fall into the river. The team, who have just arrived at the scene, quickly drive Gustav away by throwing grenades. Once Gustav retreats, Tim immediately dives into the water to rescue Jojo. Afterward, Stephen shakes Jojo's body, trying to revive him. When Jojo regains consciousness, he reveals that he is willing to help lure Gustav on one condition, that he be taken to America in return. Upon hearing Jojo's request, one of the soldiers suddenly kicks him, prompting Jojo to flee. Aviva immediately chases after him. However, while searching for Jojo around the camp, Afifa instead encounters one of the soldiers, who takes advantage of the situation and attempts to rape her. Just as Aviva is cornered, the soldier is suddenly attacked and dragged away by Gustav. Afifa escapes and runs back to warn the others. When they return, they find the camp in complete disarray, covered in blood. At that point, Jacob urges everyone to return to the village as the area is no longer safe. Before they can leave the camp, Jacob is suddenly shot by the remaining soldier. It is then revealed that the soldier has been working in collusion with little Gustav, the rebel leader. The soldier forces them to the riverbank, preparing to execute them. Before doing so, he demands the footage of the village chief's murder, insisting that it must not fall into the hands of the United Nations. As the soldier is about to shoot Stephen, he is suddenly shot first by Jojo.
We're going to America. It is one of the fishing nets.
Following the incident, the group spends the night on a floating fishing platform. There, Aviva attempts to contact Roger's assistants, pleading with them to come and rescue the group as their lives are in immediate danger. As their wounds are treated, Jacob confesses that Gustav was responsible for killing his wife. That is why he has been determined to kill the giant crocodile at any cost. At that very moment, Gustav suddenly appears and attacks them. During the assault, Matt nearly gets eaten, and the floating platform is severely damaged. Realizing that he is dying from severe blood loss, Jacob makes the decision to die alongside Gustav. He pulls out a grenade, and just as Gustav lunges at him, the grenade detonates. However, the explosion fails to kill Gustav. Instead, the giant crocodile survives and brutally devours Jacob right before their eyes. By the next morning, they are still at the destroyed fisherman's hut. Despite their exhaustion, the group manages to joke around. At that very moment, they spot a helicopter approaching. Realizing that it has been sent by Roger, they immediately head toward the grasslands. However, just as the helicopter prepares to land, an RPG rocket suddenly streaks past it. As a result, the helicopter is forced to abort the pickup and retreat. Meanwhile, Matt is struck by a rebel vehicle. The rebels then get out and kill Matt on the spot. Meanwhile, Tim and his companions hide among the bushes. Unfortunately, their hiding place is discovered by little Gustav, triggering a desperate chase. During the pursuit, Tim orders everyone to split up. After running in all directions, they manage to kill one of little Gustav's men when he crashes into a tree. Little Gustav then turns his attention to Jojo, who has fallen into a ditch. Just before little Gustav can kill him, Tim arrives and aims their rifles at him. However, it turns out that the rifle is out of ammunition. A direct confrontation between Tim and little Gustav becomes unavoidable. During the struggle, Tim comes dangerously close to being killed. But just before that happens, little Gustav is shot first by Aviva. Realizing that Stephen is no longer nearby, Tim decides to go and search for him. Meanwhile, Aviva is instructed to escort Jojo to a safe location. Elsewhere, Stephen has become separated from the group. He runs into bushes submerged in shallow water. As Stephen pauses to catch his breath, he suddenly sees Gustav emerging from the mud. Stephen immediately sprints toward dry land, and fortunately, Gustav becomes momentarily trapped against a tree. However, the restraint does not last long. Gustav resumes the chase, and in the end, Stephen is caught and devoured by the massive crocodile. Meanwhile, as Tim continues searching for Stephen, he discovers Stephen's camera. From that moment, Tim realizes that Stephen did not survive. He then returns to Aviva and Jojo, and it is at that moment that they are picked up by Harry and one of his guards. As Tim helps Jojo into Harry's vehicle, they notice a necklace belonging to the village chief hanging from the rear-view mirror. At that moment, Tim realizes the horrifying truth. The real little Gustav is Harry himself. Just as suspected, Harry immediately points a gun at Tim and demands that they locate the footage of the village chief's execution. Determined not to let the recording be destroyed, Tim quickly comes up with an idea. He shows Harry the tracking device attached to Gustav and claims that the footage is located at the same coordinates shown on the tracker's radar. In reality, the device is only indicating Gustav's current location. Despite his lack of technological understanding, Harry forces Tim and Aviva, along with his guard, to lead him to that location. Upon arriving, Harry orders Tim and the guard to retrieve the footage, which is supposedly located inside Gustav's nest. Knowing that approaching the nest is practically a death sentence, Tim has no choice but to proceed. After searching the area, Tim eventually finds the tracking dart, which has already detached from Gustav's body. Not only that, they also discover Stephen's body, left intact inside the nest. At that moment, Tim spots a dagger. Without hesitation, he kills Harry's guard. Meanwhile, Aviva pours blood and urine over Harry's body, deliberately using the scent to lure Gustav. When Tim returns, Harry prepares to shoot them both. But at that exact moment, Gustav finally emerges. Attracted by the strong scent of urine, something crocodiles favor, Gustav chooses to attack and devour Harry instead. Seizing the opportunity, Tim and Aviva escape back to the vehicle. Moments after getting inside the car, they drive away from the riverbank. However, due to the heavy rainfall, the rear wheels become stuck in the mud. At that moment, Gustav reappears and attacks the vehicle. Tim then tries to wound Gustav with his dagger, and ultimately manages to escape from the giant crocodile. The following day, Tim and Aviva finally return to the United States, bringing Jojo with them. The film concludes with on-screen text stating that in 2005, a ceasefire agreement was reached between the Burundian government and rebel forces, officially ending a 12-year civil war. However, despite the war coming to an end, Gustav's reign of terror continues, as the giant crocodile remains alive, still searching for its next victim.